And welcome back. The Opportunity Network is a not-for-profit organization that's serving individualized college guidance to help students from underrepresented communities navigate and thrive in the college landscape and professional world. The Opportunity Network ignites the drive, curiosity, and agency of underrepresented students on their paths to and through college and into thriving careers powered by our commitment to access and community. And joining us now to share a little bit more is the President and CEO of the Opportunity Network. We're pleased to be joined by AiLun Ku. And AiLun, good to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So introduce us, if you will, to the Opportunity Network for those who don't know.
Yeah, thank you. I think you captured it really well. And what we're really about is making sure every first generation student going to college and every young person of color has the agency, the skills, and the training to pursue every single career pathway that matches their ambitions. And it's always grounded in their sense of agency and their decision making. And so that's really what we do. We were born and raised in New York City 17 years ago, and we've now taken our work national in 18 cities across the United States through capacity building, supporting other organizations and high schools to do kind of versions of what we do here in New York City.
Yeah. So walk us through a little bit about what you do in New York City. I know here in New York, you got about 1,000 students that you're actually working with.
Yep, that's right. So, pre-COVID, students would come to us, and now we operate virtually, but how we operate is still the same. We're after school, out of school program. And so we meet with our young people every day after school ends for about 2 hours in cohort settings. And we start working with them the summer after 10th grade, all the way through college graduation. And in that after school, out of school setting, we work with them on what we call career fluency. And career fluency covers college guidance, transition and success, professional and workplace skills, networks and social capital, which is a really unique piece to OpNet's work. And then the last piece around career, as many career options as possible that they should be able to pursue.
Right. And so when we talk about pursuing options, sometimes it's hard to pursue those options because there's what we call the educational disparities. Sometimes the fact of in communities of color, in low-income neighborhoods, it is hard to really thrive educationally. But I know that you do some great work in trying to bridge the gap of those educational disparities.
Yes, and I think it's important that we do work from both the individual student readiness side as well as the institutional readiness side. And so when we talk about getting our young people ready, it's about their developmental kind of appropriate skill building and knowledge building and awareness building. But it's also about us as an organization, Opportunity Network, talking to institutions like higher ed institutions and employers and saying, how are you getting ready for talent of color? How are you getting ready to actually welcome our young people and changing some of your practices so the burden doesn't only fall on our young people, right? And getting ready.
Right.
And so oftentimes, young people of color have to exchange their identities for a seat at the table. And so we're saying that is not good enough. And so what you have to do as institutions is actually change your practices and hire differently, groom differently, and also run admissions differently and help them provide support and resources differently so that every young person can be seen as their fullest selves.
Yeah, and given today's culture, given today's climate, when you talk about adjusting it, institutions having to make those kind of adjustments, what are you sensing from being on the inside? Do you find that institutions are becoming more and more now more flexible, given the fact of the culture, the climate that we're presently living in?
I think there's a desire to be more flexible. I'm not sure if everybody is entirely flexible yet, but the desire and the intention is there. And we know that intention is not equal to impact. And so that means it's important for institutions to build their organizational muscle. And OpNet is included. We are examining our own practices to understand how do we hire, how do we groom, how do we promote, and then how do we kind of welcome people into our space. And so because we are an organization that's actively doing that, we can also do that with corporations, employers, and higher ed institutions and include them in a conversation as peers who are at the institutional level in actually building that muscle. And that requires all of us to learn publicly. It requires us to do more than writing statements. And it requires us to actually say, hey, when I welcome a young person into my space, whether it's a learning space or a workplace, what are the things I'm willing to adjust to make sure that young person has the best experience as opposed to just relying on that young person to adjust to my standards.
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about internship experiences and talk to me about how training and basically internship experiences could actually help, put people on that path for proper career success? I mean, we have a station where we give interns an opportunity to work behind the camera, in front of the camera, and it's definitely helped them to propel into larger and more popular career paths. But talk to us about your perspective on the types of training and interns experiences that actually address these.
Yeah, so internships is this very interesting capsule of a number of things, right? And so it's both about applying your learning in a real life context, right? And so that's what an internship does. What it also does, it helps a young person build, expand, and mobilize their social capital and network. Not only do they have something to offer into that space, in kind of enriching that space of that employer, but they themselves are expanding their network, right? And so we know many jobs are in the hidden job market. You find out through your networks, right? And so that's really, there's currency embedded in those relationships, and internships is one of the gateways to that social capital and to that currency. And then the other piece is it's the exposure, it's the learning piece, right? It's the applied piece, but then it's also what's next. It's for an internship, it's just as good to know that you don't ever want to do that job again as it is for you to know it is actually something you want to continue to pursue further, right? It helps refine a young person's understanding of what's available to them and how they can keep honing their skill sets. And so internships oftentimes can be almost a gatekeeper to the next opportunity, right? And so we shouldn't treat that as such, and we shouldn't hoard internships only for the people that we know. And we actually have to democratize access in a different way. And so AFNet uses our institutional leverage to open up as many opportunities to our students as possible, and they get to choose the type of internship they want to participate in.
Talk to us about why you feel this program, I should say, is so successful and why it makes the difference.
I think one of the reasons it's successful is because there's a mutual kind of understanding for what we're putting in together, right, as a relationship. So the young person actually wants to be a part of our program for 6 to 8 years. And that's a long time when you're 15 or 16 trying to make a decision, right? And so that's a really important thing. And it's also important that the families and the guardians and the communities are also supportive of that decision. And then the other piece is we place a lot of emphasis on relationship building and holistic relationship building. So we don't want to treat our interactions with our students as transactions. And then that's why it's also a longitudinal program. And so I think it's successful because we focus on the whole student, and we might have our core competencies around post-secondary, college, and career, but we want to make sure our young people can come to us exactly as they are, right, in their full selves. And we have a wellness support team, and we have, curriculum teams. We have all sorts of teams that can create the wraparound experience for our young people to feel supported throughout that entire journey. So it's really a both, right? That they want to be a part of our community for 6 years, and that we are doing our job in earning and sustaining their trust that we're going to support them for the 6 years.
AiLun Ku, thank you so much for sharing with us about the Opportunity Network. And so we thank you for being with us here on Open.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. And listen, we've got more shows, so stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Open will return right after this.